There's a storm brewing in Dalton, Illinois, a storm fueled by outrage but pierced with a glimmer of hope. After months of roadblocks, legal showdowns, and outright abuse of authority, small business owner Tiffany Henyard finally walked out of Cook County courtroom victorious. In her hands, the liquor licenses she fought tooth and nail to secure, the very licenses that stood between her family's dream restaurant, St. Patrick's, and its grand opening. But don't confuse this with a typical delay or minor paperwork snag. This was no accident. This was a calculated hit job orchestrated by Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who just so happens to have had a Dalton's liquor commissioner, a role she shamelessly twisted into a weapon against anyone she can't control or squeeze for cash. The courtroom clash reached its boiling point when Judge Cecilia Heron issued a direct ultimatum to Henyard: sign those licenses by 5 p.m. Thursday or face the legal hammer. And what did Henyard do? She ignored it, flat out defying a judge's order, as if the rule of law doesn't apply to her. That level of arrogance shouldn't surprise anyone who's been paying attention. This is a mayor who has treated Dalton like her personal fiefdom for years, showering friends with favors, punishing enemies without mercy, and turning her office into a wrecking ball aimed straight at the businesses she can't bend to her will. But let's be clear, this fight isn't just about one restaurant. For more than a year, I've been exposing how Henyard has systematically sabotaged local entrepreneurs, especially the ones she couldn't bully into submission or shake down for campaign donations. Tiffany Henyard, another black woman entrepreneur, became one of her latest targets. Yet instead of backing down like so many others forced out by intimidation, Henyard stood her ground, and that stand pushed her head first into a courtroom showdown with the so-called city girl mayor. And make no mistake, this wasn't simple negligence. This was targeted obstruction at its core. By deliberately withholding Henyard's liquor licenses, Henyard froze her business before it even opened, robbing her thousands in revenue and forcing her to bleed even more money on legal fees. Yes, Henyard walked out of court with her licenses in hand, but Henyard walked out with something else, a criminal contempt charge now etched on her record. That's the difference between justice served and corruption exposed, of course. Henyard's lawyer, Max Solomon, tried to spin the fallout, scrambling with the excuse that some other entity was responsible for the delay. But let's be honest, you don't get slapped with criminal contempt over a paperwork mix-up. That weak defense didn't fool anyone. This wasn't about missing files. This was Henyard flexing her political muscle, trying to show she's untouchable. But this time, her arrogance blew up in her face. And Henyard isn't done. She's demanding that Henyard be held financially accountable for every dollar she cost her, the lost time, the lost profits, the unnecessary legal battles. And honestly, who could blame her? The way Henyard operates, it's like she thinks she's above the law, immune from consequences. But the courtroom proved otherwise. The law caught up with her this time. And in Dalton, more and more people are hoping this is only the beginning of her downfall. Now, here's the reality. If this had been any ordinary citizen, they'd be sitting in a jail cell for blowing off a judge's order. But this isn't just anyone. This is Tiffany Henyard, a mayor infamous for her arrogance and her disregard for authority. This wasn't a one-off mistake. This is how she governs Dalton, through fear, intimidation, and outright defiance. That restaurant should have been open months ago, bringing jobs and tax revenue to the village. Instead, Henyard sat on those licenses, treating her office like a throne while draining Dalton's finances dry with her reckless spending. And don't forget the whistleblower who came forward last year, pulling back the curtain on Henyard's corruption, under oath. It was revealed that Henyard instructed staff to withhold business licenses from anyone who wasn't politically aligned with her or willing to donate to her campaign. Think about that. If you weren't on her donor list or part of her inner circle, she shut your business down before it started. That's not leadership. That's corruption. Plain and simple. Point one whistleblower, Syshaw Williams, wasn't just making noise. She became part of a lawsuit, joining two other former employees in suing Henyard and the village of Dolton. Williams testified about the toxic environment that spiraled out of control when Henyard started making demands that were unethical and possibly illegal. Demands like withholding permits and licenses from anyone who wouldn't bow down to her agenda. And when Williams pushed back, Henyard retaliated by demoting her to the water department. even though Williams was the only staffer qualified to process business licenses. And after stripping her role, they fired her outright. Ask yourself, do these sound like the actions of a public servant or the power plays of a political tyrant clinging to control? Sadly, in Dalton, this has become business as usual. Under Henyard's reign, intimidation has become policy, retaliation has become routine, and corruption has become the norm. And until now, she's managed to get away with it. But with every lawsuit, every whistleblower, and every court order she defies, the walls are closing in on Dalton's so-called super mayor. But here's the thing. Henyard's troubles don't stop at contempt charges or lawsuits. Enter former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, handpicked by Dalton's Board of Trustees to dig into the village's financial disaster. And what she uncovered wasn't just troubling, it was explosive. Dalton, once a village sitting on a healthy surplus, is now drowning in a staggering $6 million deficit. $6 million. Gone. The financial chaos Lightfoot exposed reads like a script for corruption. Overtime payouts that double police officer salaries. A jaw-dropping $40,000 spent on Amazon in a single day. And here's the kicker. Dalton didn't even have an Amazon account. Nearly $780,000 blown on credit cards in just 2 years, with zero explanation on where the money went. This isn't sloppy bookkeeping. This is a pattern. Lightfoot revealed how Henyard and her team worked overtime to cover up the truth, misleading trustees, lied to residents, and even trying to stop the investigation itself. Henyard vetoed the probe outright until the board overrode her. Why? Because she knew the numbers would tell the story she's been desperate to hide. And when the digging started, her corruption became undeniable. That infamous $40,000 Amazon purchase. Henyard tried to pass it off as supplies for the village's ice rink. But here's the problem. The ice rink never opened. This wasn't just mismanagement. This was systematic abuse of taxpayer money. And Henyard didn't stop at Dalton. She carried the same reckless spending spree over Thornton Township, hiking the township's credit card limit from $30,000 to $200,000 and draining it like her own personal ATM. And where are the so-called watchdogs at the state and county level? The attorney general? The governor? Silent, missing in action. The only people standing up to this corruption are Dalton's residents themselves, ordinary citizens who refuse to be silenced while their village is looted in plain sight. They've been the true watchdogs, sounding the alarm while officials look the other way. But here's the reality. Federal investigators are watching. The recent indictments of Henyard's close associates? That's not coincidence. That's a warning shot. And mark my words, before this year's out, sometime between April and July, Tiffany Henyard will face indictment herself. The walls are closing in, and she knows it. The clock is ticking on Dalton's so-called super mayor. So now I ask you, is it finally time for Tiffany Henyard to face real accountability? Should Dalton's residents get justice for the abuse, the corruption, and the millions stolen from their future? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your voice matters in this fight. And to everyone supporting this platform, Roland C., Creed, Charles, A.G., Samuel, thank you. You're the reason stories like this stay in the spotlight. If you want fearless, unapologetic coverage that doesn't back down from exposing corruption, hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and share this video. Because the pressure is building. And trust me, this story is far from over.